Iran has now released what is being described as its first video after an outdated F-5 fighter reportedly bombed a US base, a move that seems designed to turn an old aircraft into a symbol of strategic embarrassment for Washington. Some observers may see this as Mujtaba unveiling the broader strategy that appeared to puncture claims of unquestioned US supremacy, especially if low-altitude tactics and surprise were what made the strike possible. Iran also appears to be signaling how it may have used obsolete jets to jolt the United States in its own Arab security backyard, suggesting that aging platforms can still be dangerous when paired with unconventional tactics. By declaring, "We did not win in Hollywood," Iran is now seemingly trying to flip the narrative after damaging US media revelations. And in the process, it may be seeking to deepen Trump's embarrassment over what critics portray as a badly misread conflict. On May 3rd, an Iranian embassy account released what was described as the first video linked to the attack in which an F-5 fighter jet reportedly bombed a US base, drawing fresh attention to Iran's use of old aircraft in a modern conflict. Iran appeared to use that video to hint at the strategy it may have employed to hit US bases with an aging F-5 jet, suggesting that low-altitude penetration could have helped it slip through defensive coverage. The clip reportedly showed Iranian fighter jets flying in a low-altitude sortie, reinforcing the impression that terrain-hugging flight may have been central to the mission profile. In one striking message, Iran's embassy in South Africa declared, "We did not win in Hollywood. We won on the battlefield," framing the footage as proof of real battlefield success rather than propaganda theater. Iran embassy in South Africa posted, and I quote, "Were you caught off guard by the operation of Iranian F-5 fighter jets? Iranian pilots have been practicing low-altitude flights over the Persian Gulf for more than 30 years, preparing for a moment like this, to strike deep into a US base undetected and by surprise. We did not win in Hollywood. We won on the battlefield." Unquote. Earlier, the IRGC had said that Iran's Air Force carried out multiple sorties targeting enemy bases, which fits the broader narrative Tehran has tried to build around sustained and coordinated attacks. Reports from early March also suggested that an Iranian fighter flew at extremely low altitude toward Kuwait, a detail that has become central to explanations of how the aircraft may have avoided detection long enough to strike. In Kuwait, that Iranian jet was said to have bombed Camp Buehring, one of the main American military bases in the region and a site considered heavily defended. According to Press TV-linked reporting echoed elsewhere, the aircraft carried conventional bombs, and later US reporting acknowledged that Camp Buehring had in fact been hit. This is especially notable because Iran is widely known to operate only a limited number of aging aircraft, a constraint long tied to decades of Western sanctions and restricted access to advanced platforms. Even so, Iran has claimed that it managed to strike US bases in the region using these obsolete jets, a claim that, if accurate, would raise serious questions about the vulnerability of expensive modern air defenses. A new investigation by CNN has taken a deeper look into Iran's attacks on US military bases across the Middle East during the war, shedding fresh light on how the strikes unfolded. More details are now beginning to emerge about Iran's successful attacks on American military sites, with new reporting pointing to the scale, timing, and apparent effectiveness of those operations. CNN reported that Iran struck at least 16 American military sites spread across 8 countries in the Middle East, indicating that the campaign was broader and more coordinated than previously understood. The American media outlet made this claim after examining satellite imagery, reviewing damage assessments, and speaking to multiple sources through interviews connected to the incidents. According to CNN, several military installations suffered major operational damage in the attacks, while some of the affected sites were left temporarily or completely unusable. A source cited by CNN said, and I quote, "There has been a spectrum of assessments. From a pretty dramatic side, of the whole facility is destroyed and needs to be shut down, to leaders who say these things are worth repairing due to the strategic benefit they give the US." Unquote. Iran strikes reportedly targeted advanced radar systems, communications infrastructure, missile defense assets, and military aircraft, suggesting a deliberate effort to weaken key elements of America's regional defense network. Radar systems linked to American THAAD missile batteries in Jordan were among the assets reportedly targeted, raising questions about the vulnerability of high-value air defense systems in the region. Radar installations located at US military sites in the United Arab Emirates were also reportedly hit, indicating that Iranian strikes may have focused heavily on blinding surveillance and early warning capabilities. An American Boeing E-3 Sentry aircraft was reportedly destroyed in an Iranian strike on a Saudi airbase, marking what could be one of the most significant losses highlighted in the emerging reports. A congressional aide cited by CNN said, and I quote, It's notable they really identified those facilities as the most cost-effective targets to hit. Our radar systems are our most expensive and our most limited resources in the region." Unquote. CNN has also challenged the Pentagon's public estimate of the financial cost of the war, suggesting that the officially stated figure may significantly understate the true scale of the burden. According to a source, the real figure is considerably higher once the damage inflicted on U.S. military sites across the region is fully taken into account. On April 29th, the acting Pentagon controller told lawmakers that the United States had spent $25 billion on the conflict so far, presenting that number as the current official estimate. However, that figure does not include the potentially enormous costs of rebuilding damaged infrastructure or replacing military equipment lost or destroyed during the attacks. The real cost estimate is closer to $40 to $50 billion, a source familiar with the matter told CNN, pointing to a much wider financial impact than publicly acknowledged. Earlier reports had said that repairs to the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet alone could cost around $200 million, underscoring how expensive even a single damaged facility can be. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has acknowledged that it still does not have final assessments regarding the full extent of the damage, leaving the total cost uncertain for now. Jules Hurst III said, and I quote, "We don't have a final number for what the damage is to our installations overseas. Our partners also might contribute a share for that construction. So we don't have a great estimate for what it would take to reconstitute those facilities." Unquote. The Pentagon told Congress that the war cost roughly $11 billion during its first 6 days alone, highlighting the extraordinary pace at which the financial burden mounted in the opening phase of the conflict. The War Department has requested more than $200 billion in additional military funding linked to the war, signaling expectations of prolonged costs and a much wider long-term defense commitment. Apart from direct military losses, the blockade of Hormuz is also intensifying the energy crisis in the United States, adding economic pressure at home to the strategic and operational costs overseas.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.